time that you have here with us today. And so very shortly or very quickly, I'm going to introduce myself. My name is David L. Jackson. I am going to be your facilitator here today, coming to you live all the way from the 305 Miami-Dade County, Florida. And I'm excited. This is my first national call, my first extension call. So hopefully I can stick the landing on this one, but the vibes are already here. So I know it'll be a good call. I'm joined by a couple of my colleagues, and I'm sure if I misland the plane a little bit, they'll help me stay on track. But we're gonna dive right in, and just so I can get you to the position where we're actually collaborating inside of this workshop, I'm gonna spend less time on the front end just to make sure you have that time on the back end. But as we move through today, I want to be very clear about one thing, and that thing I want to be clear on is the intention behind this entire session for today. I just want to make sure we all bring this to the forefront of our minds and imagination, this cardinal that we're going to spend on throughout today's session. And so the idea is by the end of today, leaders will leave with resources and best practices to implement an ongoing professional learning at your school. There is a bit of discernment that takes place here. And what I mean by that is I can present you 1,000 workshops, or I can present you 1,000 resources throughout this entire presentation, but nobody knows your school ecosystem the way you do. So the idea here is what can you take, twist, flip, and fit into what you already have going on at your school, and I'm sure what you already do so well. So we're going to cover 5 things today. We're going to go through an inclusion activity. We're going to talk about ongoing professional learning. Then we're going to look at some portfolio examples, some exemplars, some things that are going well across the VILS community. Then we're going to have an opportunity to collaborate. That's what I was talking about before, that small group chance to collaborate across district, across region. And then the last part, hopefully we can get there. And I'm going to remain very optimistic about the closing for today. We got 4 community agreements, and those are short and straight to the point. And I'm sure we've seen this slide before, but I just want to spend a little bit of time here bringing us to a common place. This is a large call, right? This is a large call. So we just want to make sure, we want to be mindful that our microphones are on mute at all times, right? And then an opportunity will come where you will have an opportunity to go ahead and come off mute and share some of those gems, share some of those personal experiences that you're having inside of your school. And I know I don't even have to talk about the second one because I can feel the vibes, and I can feel them virtually, that you will be present throughout this entire experience. And again, it's only an hour. And you know, from being in the school, by the time you blink, that hour moves very quickly. And the last 2 are more for you, just ensuring that we're mindful and we're also kind with ourselves throughout this entire experience. If you need to step away, if you need to go ahead and turn your camera off, if you need to handle something, please don't feel like you got to be here and not tend to yourselves, right? We want to make sure that you can continue to win. And just like Lauren Hill said, you cannot win if you are not right within. So I just want to go ahead and drop that bomb real quick before we get started. So what will you need for this session? I'm sure we're all familiar with the digital handouts, but I'm going to drop it again in the chat just to make sure you have it. This is where all of the links for today will be housed. Every last resource, every item that you will need for today's session is going to be inside of that digital handout. So please feel free, as folks start to come in, I'm going to keep dropping it in the chat. That way we can ensure that everybody has access to that. And I'm gonna stop talking very shortly, but I want to get through the front end of today. Then we'll get into more of the technical side, the reason why we're all here today. So where are we, right? Where are we in our journey, right? Right now, it is currently October. It is starting to get a little cold in Miami. This morning I woke up, it was about 65 degrees. I know for some of us that's not cold, but it is freezing. I put on a scarf this morning when I went outside to walk the dog. But we are in our ongoing professional learning session, October 20th, and we're going to zoom through this part and get straight into the inclusion activity for today. I'm not going to read you the slide in front of you, but what I do want to do is I want to start to bring us to a place to engage in conversation. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to give you an opportunity just to read and reflect on the slide in front of you. And once you're done reading and reflecting on the slide in front of you, there's a question at the bottom that I would love for us to respond to inside of the chat. Just recalling a time when you were engaged in a powerful learning experience, right? What made that content so powerful? and we're going to drop those responses in the chat. And you don't have to drop an elaborate paragraph. You don't have to write a dissertation. However it comes to your mind, please feel free to drop it that way inside of the chat. So again, we're just reading, reflecting, and then responding to the blue question inside of the chat box. And we'll take about a minute here. And at the top of that minute, we'll come back and we'll move this thing forward for today. And as the responses start to roll in, please feel free. And I know the chat is going to be moving fast, but please feel free to stroll through and check out what other folk are saying about their engagements in powerful content. So here we go. If you are still getting your responses in the chat, don't panic. I'm going to move forward, but please feel free to keep on dropping those into the chat box. And while we won't debrief right now, again, I just want us to keep those experiences at the forefront of our imagination, because there will be an opportunity for us to dive into conversation. I want to put this out there right now. Please do not be shy when I start to ask for folk to share. I know all y'all got your cameras on, so I know nobody is shy on this call. So when I start to ask, don't turn the cameras off and lead a session. So let's move this thing forward for today. Right, on the screen in front of us, we see the 6 elements of success. Right, this is what we use to build a culture of powerful learning. And today we're focused on the ongoing professional learning piece. And as we move through the day, we're going to be really locked in on this VILS school portfolio. I'm going to spend a little time here, and I won't go on a rant, but I just want to talk about these 4, not super in-depthly, but just enough to where we understand the importance of the Verizon Innovative Learning school portfolio. The first one is to showcase the journey. As a former history teacher, I find a lot of value in archival sources, right? Being able to take a look back in order to look forward. So when we talk about the portfolio, it's important that we keep this in the background of our minds. And then the concept of reflection. I was taught that reflection itself is a superpower, right? Just being able to take a step back and reflect on the entire process of implementing the VILS journey or the VILS experience on and inside of your classrooms and on your campuses. The next one is to create, right? When we think about, well, why is this so important? To create sustainable systems for effective technology integration, right? We're in a space now where teachers across the United States are trying to figure out, well, how on earth do we move students from a place of consumership to a place of just pure ownership and creation, right? And when we think about the portfolio, right, these are examples, right? These are things that we can use to create these sustainable systems, leaving something behind for someone else to dive in and think through, how do we make this better, right? How do we make this journey better for our students? And the last one is modeling, right? How portfolios can be used for student choices and voices, creating that agency, creating that ownership, moving students closer to mastery. And I was always told, and I just want to drop this here before I move to the next piece, the classroom, right? The classroom is a lot more than just a 90-minute, a 60-minute, or 30-minute session. It's a training ground for something larger, right? It's a training ground for tomorrow. And when we think about the VILS school portfolio, right, inside of that portfolio, we're seeing the tools, tips, and tricks to get students to that place. So in your digital handout, and we're not going to look through it right now, but you have access, right? You have access to the framework and guide. So whenever you have, again, this is your your resource. Whenever you have the time, please feel free. And we won't have the time here in this hour to take a dive into the actual handout, but everything that we talked about, that we looked at the last slide, is in your digital handout. So there's a question, right? There's a question that pops up very often. The question is, well, how can I support effective teacher use of technology at school? And that's what we're going to focus on. That's what we're going to focus on right now. And quite possibly the larger part of today's call. So I want to take a second just to reflect on the quote on the screen in front of you. And once you are done reading the quote, you can drop the number 1 in the chat. So I know you're done and you're locked in and you're ready to move to the next part of today. So again, we're just reading and reviewing the screen. And once we are done, we are just dropping the number 1 in the chat. So I know you're ready to move to the next part of today. Seeing the ones roll in rather rapidly. So we'll push it forward, right? And just as a heads up, after this next slide is where I will ask for some participations. I just want to put it out there so nobody is surprised when I ask you to come on mute and talk to me just a little bit, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to move this forward, right? Upon our reflection of the slide that's in front of us in the chat, we're going to try a waterfall out. And for those of you who don't know what a waterfall is, we're going to take just about a minute, write our answer in the chat, but do not press enter until I say go. We'll try that out. And sometimes people jump the gun a little bit, and it's okay, right? I love the enthusiasm behind the concept. So what we're going to do here, we're going to take a minute to respond to the question, and after that minute, after the responses fill the chat, is where I will open, right? Where I will open the floor for conversation and talk back between you and I. So we'll take 1 minute to go ahead and respond to the question on the screen inside of the chat, waterfall style. Do not drop your answer until I say go. Let's see, some of y'all looking like this is the longest minute of my life. Go ahead and drop those responses, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so I'm seeing the responses roll in rather rapidly as the waterfall goes. So what we'll do right here in this moment, I want to take a step back and open the floor just for some conversation and talk back about some of the things that you deem best practices. And because the call is super large, I'm going to shoot for number 3. We'll take about 3 people. I'm going to open the floor for 3 people. Once I get that third share, then I'll go ahead and move the conversation forward, right? We can do this 1 or 2 ways. Either we can utilize the participant feature, which is always the easiest way, or, right, if you're like me and you do not want to use the participant feature, just wait a little bit. And once it's a little bit quiet, then you know it's your opportunity to go ahead and dive into the conversation. I already see 1 hand in the air, so we'll go ahead. Let's get to it. First hand, talk to me.
Hi, this is Beatrice from also Miami-Dade County Public Schools. One of the things that we do at our school is that we have ongoing PLCs and PDs, and we have short little surveys. So it's Wonderful Wednesdays, and they join us, teachers join us, and we address the common areas of need that they've identified on the weekly surveys. So we don't wait for those big surveys results to come out. We're addressing their needs along the way.
There it is. I appreciate you breaking the ice, jumping straight into the conversation. And I'm gonna just say that's how we do it down here in Dade County. I'm a proud product of Dade County Public Schools. And for sure, right, I love the use of a survey to directly address a need, right? That's that equity piece, meeting people right where they are, going straight to the need, and not giving things that you want, actually meeting the needs of teachers. I appreciate that. And Veronica, I see your hand in the air. Let's go ahead and keep the vibes going. Talk to me.
One thing that I found was creating short little videos showing teachers how to access maybe different online components that they can digest when they have the brain power to do so. So it's not, you have to sit in this meeting and learn how to do it. It's when they are comfy on the couch and they can learn through their best environment.
There it is. And I love that. I love that for your teachers. Because it always pops up in learning experience calls where we assume that students just have, students already know how to do the things that we're asking. And I think vice versa, sometimes there's an assumption that because we're teachers or because we're educators, we just know how to do it, right? But providing that video, right, gives us a reference to kind of slow down, rewind, watch and rewatch until we have mastered, So thank you for sharing that. And I see another hand in the air. Let's go ahead and get to it. Talk to me.
Is that for me?
Oh yeah, that was for you.
Okay, so I'm a coach here in Houston in HISD, and so what we do at my campus is we're going to be utilizing already outlined professional learning experiences through our transformation initiatives here in our district. Our campus is one of the identified schools for additional support to kind of help us continue on a path of growth and progression toward academic achievement. And so we're kind of embedding those additional trainings and professional learning experiences through that initiative. And it kind of helps when the teachers are already set up for the mindset to come in and do extra work and to kind of be geared toward that. So it's not like, oh, wow, we're just sitting here doing anything. They're actually coming in with the mindset that this is the work that was going to get done. For
sure. You on here dropping gems. You trying to put me out of business. That's what it sounds like. I don't know. That's what it sounds like to me. But 1000% right now, I like the mindset piece, right? Just teachers knowing exactly what they're getting into before they get into it. Right? For some of us, we got to pep rally ourselves up before we actually get into the work. So knowing ahead of time what exactly I'm getting ready to do definitely helps. And I appreciate it. That's three. That's three. I want to push for a four, but again, I do want to make sure that we have time and opportunity to get into those small group conversations. So this next part, what we're going to do is we're going to look at some exemplars across region, right? And you have access to all of these items inside of your digital handout. And I do want to make this invitation to any of my colleagues who are on the call who support these regions. If we come to one that is in your region and you want to say a little more about it, please feel free. I don't even consider it cutting me off. I just consider it is your opportunity to take the stage. And if you don't want to speak, that's absolutely fine. But I just want to make sure I put that invitation out there for you as well. So let's get into the groove, right? Let's get into the groove for this next piece, right? So we're gonna talk a little bit about the South Central region. I don't want to talk about favorites, but this is the region that I was representing. So shout out to South Central. I know they're on the call holding it down right now. I got mad love for all the regions, but I just want to give that personal shout out to South Central. So here's what's going on in the South Central region. We're looking at Irving High School, and what they're doing directly is meeting the needs of all faculty and staff by providing a variety of professional learning development options, in-person, synchronous, and asynchronous. And so when I first read this, I thought it was so phenomenal because the same agency that we talk about, the same choice that we talk about giving to students, in this example right here, we're giving it to teachers so they can control their own place, pace, path, and time, having direct ownership over when exactly they're getting this done. So again, you have access to all of this inside of your digital handout. So I'm not going to take a deep dive into it, but this is one exemplar of what's going on across regions. The second one that we're going to look at is happening on the Eastern region, where they're utilizing their student tech team, right? Directly using the student-to-student support, right? When I was in school, they used to always tell me a 16-year-old may listen to a 16-year-old before they listen to me, right? So the question became, well, how do we deploy students in a way that empowers other students? And right here, we see this in the Eastern region, where their student tech team is stepping up in that leadership capacity to truly help and engage other students. And if you see something you like, you see something you love, please feel free to drop it in the chat. That's also welcomed. So moving over to the West region, right? We see a monthly newsletter, and if anybody notices something interesting about the title of the newsletter, it is deeply creative. So on the West side, they're leveraging the expertise of their teachers, leveraging some of that creative agency that a lot of teachers have, and they have this creative newsletter that goes out monthly to share resources, implementing technology inside of the classroom, adding a little joy, adding a little humor, adding a little bit of shake and bake to the norm, right? The norm of what we see newsletters to be, bringing that vibrancy into the classroom, putting a smile on other teachers' faces. All right, so now we're going to move over to the Southeast region, right? What exactly is the Southeast region doing? Harnessing the power of instructional technology coaches. Similar to students, teachers' skill sets with technology varies, right? We know that we all enter the TIM on different levels. So what we're seeing here to support teachers in leveraging technology in their classroom, Hammock Middle School is directly identifying and addressing those needs, using surveys like I heard before to address the areas that we need a little more in. All right, now we're going to move over to the Central region before we get into our small group activity. And in the Central region, we see them leveraging bite-sized PDs, right? Bite-sized, calling them PDs, to go an on-demand, innovative form of support that allows faculty and staff to learn on the go, complements of traditional learning practices, right? So that quick, real-time, in effect, bite-sized PD. And I see a hand in the air. Talk to me.
Yeah, so this is mine. I'm so pleasantly surprised to see this. But I wanted to speak to, it's been a huge success here. Just to provide a little bit more context, I make a homemade treat. I try and keep it on theme. I put it in a brown bag that looks like a lunch bag, and I slide this flyer into it and I hand deliver it to every single teacher in the building, so that I can assure that everybody's seeing it. It's not something that they have to click and open. Sure, they have to scan the QR codes in order to see it, but they could also read the description, which hopefully will get them excited or interested in learning a little bit more. And I got to give credit to my teammate, Emily Cowan. She's the one who came up with this, but now we both do it in our schools, and it's been really, really great.
So I appreciate you. And if you're a celebrity, then just go ahead and say that. Just go ahead and say you're a celebrity, and we'll go ahead and we'll get these autographs going. But I appreciate you coming off mute and speaking. And that's the ownership piece, right? Speaking towards your thing, right? Speaking towards your thing, and I appreciate that. And I would love a bite as well. I'm down here.
I made mummy Oreos this month and put Halloween music in the background of my videos. So I had fun with it.
Tell me where to go and I'm there. All right. So let's go ahead and move to the next piece of the day. And I'm loving the vibes. I'm loving the energy again. So what I want to do now is I want to provide an opportunity to get into that collaborative space, to jump into that breakout room space that I was talking about earlier. So on the screen, we have 3 very simple directions for the breakout rooms. And so I'm not going to read them to you. I'm going to give you an opportunity just to read the directions on your own. And once you are done reading the directions, drop the number 2 in the chat. Again, once you're done reading the directions, drop the number 2 in the chat, and I'll say something on the back end, and then we'll move into those breakout rooms. here we go. I'm seeing a bunch of twos roll into the chat. So I know we are locked in and ready to move. So if anybody has any questions, right? If anybody has any questions before we leave, please, I want to open the floor for those. If there are no questions, I'm going to open the breakout rooms and then we're going to dive into the choice board. All of the resources that you need in order to complete this activity is inside of that digital handout. And I'll drop that link again one more time in the chat, just in case nobody has that. Just in case everybody doesn't have it. Right, so I am going to open the breakout rooms and then we'll come back here. We'll come back here in about 15 minutes. And then after the 15, we'll go ahead and move into the last part of today.
This meeting is being recorded.
Yes, it is. Welcome back to the main room. We're going to get started once everyone piles back in here. In just about 20 seconds, we'll be right back on it.
This meeting is recorded.
Welcome back to the main room. Ladies and gentlemen, I do apologize if I cut you off in the midst of conversation. I promise it was not intentional. It is only because the time is winding down, but hopefully we had an opportunity to really dive into some solid conversations. So what I want to do right now before we move to the end of today's session is I want to bring some of those small group conversations inside of the breakout room right here on the grand stage. And so we'll take a couple of share outs before we get to the next part. So I'm interested in hearing what were some things that resonated with you from your small groups, and or what are some things you plan on taking and adding to your school portfolio. So I'm gonna open the floor. We'll do it the same way. Either you can use the participant feature or you can just wait a little bit, and when it's quiet, you can jump into the conversation. So I'm gonna take a step back. The floor is open for anyone who would like to share.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Cuss, you raised your hand. I didn't do my protocol, so I'm going to mute myself so that you can go, man. I see that you put your hand up.
Thank you so much, Mr. Johnson, and good to see you on the call. Tell my friend Shantice I said hello. So I just I had a great group of coaches, and we were kind of in our discussion and discourse about the those portfolios. Is one thing that stood out to all of us was the opportunities that some of them took to be transparent about some things that may not have been as successful as the plan was. And sometimes we face that more often than not, but we are not as comfortable with expressing that. And so just making sure that we continue to, be transparent and understand that not everything is going to be a home run. Sometimes you strike out, sometimes, it's a ground out. You know, I'm an Astros fan, go Stros. But we're just being honest with ourselves and kind of letting ourselves off the hook if something doesn't go as well, but being able to understand that there's always room for improvement and to just kind of go back and be reflective on it. So that transparency part was definitely something that we all took away.
Yeah, it is. I appreciate that. Even in that transparency, I'm also hearing a little bit of vulnerability there as well. And that's what prompts that growth. And I also see that Mr. Johnson didn't want no smoke, man. He went ahead and said, I'm gonna go ahead and take a step back and chill out and let you take the floor. So I'm gonna kick it over to Mr. Johnson to go ahead and take the floor, and then we'll keep the floor open for just a little longer. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, no problem. No, with my group, we were just looking at the wide range of availability of how they put it out there on ways that they could actually engage in the PD. I like that. One there was two things that was really important. Is that, you know, they had a area for the emerging bilinguals. Like, okay, this is something that they could dive into. Reading, writing, speaking, and listening. That's a big deal for those students that have to actually take a test in Texas that's called a TELPAS, that they have those opportunities to read, write, speak, and listen within the classroom. So that was a strategy that they already had posted. That was pretty good. And just the availability of, you know, different areas, either for leadership or for the campus. I like the way they just had that choice. And so as we go into that extension and we talk about how they have opportunities to be able to do PD in different ways, that's important. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah, it is. I appreciate that. And that's that discernment that I was talking about in the beginning, because what I heard in your response was, here's what can work for us, right? So knowing that there's a lot of availability here, but what directly works for us here in this particular situation? I appreciate you sharing that. I want to leave the floor open for maybe we'll do two more. We'll do two more shares, and then I'll go ahead and tie a bow on this thing and get us up out of here. So looking for two more people, two more brave folk to go ahead and take the floor.
Hey, it's Michelle McBride from Compton. Sorry, Ms. Jones, she raised her hand and I just jumped in. But our group, one of the things we talked about was the data that was included and how that was used to plan next steps. And we really like the incorporation of that data in portfolios.
You sound like somebody I need to know. You said I need to get better at utilizing the data to make decisions, and I love that it's something that you're fond of. So we might have to connect. I just want to put that out there. One more hand in the sky. Ms. Jones, talk to us. You'll be the last person for the day, and then I'll move to the last piece.
Awesome. Yeah. So something that we were talking about in our group, I think that one thing that binds all VILS coaches together is that we have all at some point created that coaching menu. And one of them that we were looking at had the menu, but it also had when a teacher might utilize that particular coach for that purpose. So I was thinking particularly about new coaches. You know, you don't know what you don't know, or not new coaches, but new teachers. You don't know what you don't know. And sometimes you just feel like, as a new teacher, I need help. And so that menu with the breaking down, this is when you might utilize this, was just really helpful. And then Nicole in my group brought up being a menu where it was divvied up into like sizes. So if you wanted the appetizer, that's a coaching skill that we can do in, you know, a 15-minute session with a teacher. Or if you want the main course, it might be a 2-hour, you know, more coaching situation. But just looking at the different variations of the menu was interesting.
Sure. And as soon as you said that, I don't know if you saw it, but so many people started nodding their heads and smiling, agreeing with what you were saying. So I just want to make sure you were aware of that. And it's almost like a cheat code, right? Almost like a cheat sheet, right? Just to know exactly when do it's not an all the time thing, but when do I utilize my coach and for what, right? So let's go ahead and move to the last part of today. I'm sure, I'm almost guaranteed that there were more phenomenal things that happened inside of those small groups. And I want to encourage you to keep those conversations going. I'm not saying we got to be best friends, but keep them going. So I want to move to the next piece, talk about next steps a little bit before I run out of time, just to make sure we're all on the same page. Right after this is over, right, here are just a couple calendar reminders for everyone on the call. We have the self-reflection due on November 3rd. Email reminders for that are going to come out. They will be sent on the 25th. right after that. And if you want to write this down, it's absolutely fine. But also remember, you have this document, you have these things. The TTS survey is open until Friday, November 4th. And then at the bottom, we see the December team call will showcase 1 or 2 of your best elements. And in January, the PL Sync showcase the full school portfolio. I got a lot more announcements, so we're gonna do this like church. I'm gonna run through them. All right, I'm gonna run through them. So y'all sit back, relax. I'm gonna get through these announcements. I promise I'm gonna get you out of here. So after next steps, please do not forget to register for November's monthly webinar on November 17th. That's Founders Day to Omega Psi Phi. I don't know if anybody wanted to know that, but I'm gonna put it out there. See page 13 of your extension school implementation guide, or use the following links to register for the call. Again, you have access to all of these things. Moving on through with the announcements, I got about 3 more that I'm gonna get you out of here. Right, so talk a little bit about the Verizon employee support. Right, Verizon employees are excited to support the VILS district and schools with rollout events, STEM fairs, career days, and other volunteer needs. If you want access to this form, you have that as well. The earlier you submit, the better, the more likely Verizon can fulfill your request, right? Again, you have access to this form. I see some head nods looking like some folk want to take advantage of this. Moving on over to the next announcement, right? New on the Verizon Innovative Learning HQ, we have 3, right? We have 3 new things that are popping up there. We have the McGraw-Hill AR focused on algebra readiness, grade 6 through 12, 3 lessons live, rotations, nets, and cross sections. 7 more lessons arriving by October. Time Pod Adventures. I don't know if anybody ever played the game on NASA, but that's what that screenshot is giving me my elementary school, reminiscing on some of those things. But focusing on problem solving with cross-curricular tie-ins, grades K through 12, 2 episodes and 9 lessons live, 3 more lessons focused on life on Mars arriving by October. And the last part, the last one, Trusted Education Partners, Discovery and McGraw-Hill. Right, moving on through, we got 1 more announcement. I promise I'm gonna get you out of here. Right, this is the QR code for our Elevated Innovation Conference taking place November 8th. 2022 from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. If you got your phones out and you want to go ahead and lock into the QR code now, you can. But if you do not want to, again, remember you have access to all of this inside of your digital handout, right? Inside of your digital handout. And the last announcement before I wrap this up, after this, you will receive a link, and it's also inside of your digital handout, attendance and feedback survey form for the day. Please feel free to drop us a line of feedback about the entire presentation, the resources, my facilitation, or anything that you would like to drop a line on, right? Again, my name is David L. Jackson. Only if you enjoyed the session. If you didn't enjoy it, please feel free not to include my name in anything you have to submit. But before I get to the last slide, I do want to thank y'all. I want to thank y'all for the time. Thank you for an hour of your time here today on Friday Junior, locked into the extension call. And I hope that we were able to take something away from today's call. And I don't have anything else for you all today, but I really appreciate the vibes. And I know, and I can guarantee that we are changing lives out there in our school ecosystem. So I want to thank y'all for being here. You can kick it with me if you want to a little longer, but I'm gonna play some music and let y'all go ahead and head out of here.
Thank you, DJ David.
I do what I can. I appreciate you.
And one other thing for you.
Okay, that's what I like to see. That's what I like to see on the call.